Superman is already out on streaming, and some fans are angry because, after all, why would you fork out $100 to take your family to see Superman when you could watch it at home for $20 just a month later? But there's actually a really good economic reason why the studios are doing this. And guess what? It's all your fault. Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and we're going to talk about why Superman opened up so damn early in theaters, and later I'm going to talk to Colton and Tommy about why movie theaters as we know it might be an endangered species that could be gone within the next 5 years. Now, what got me thinking about this was this tweet from Heavy Spoilers. Imagine forking out $100 for tickets and popcorn when you could just wait a few weeks and watch the movie at home. No wonder people are staying away from the theater. But the fact is, the movie industry has been building towards this model for decades, and digital has only made it worse. When movies were first created, there was only one way to watch them, in the theater. So studios would re-release them every few years. Gone with the Wind was released in the theaters 7 times, which is why it's the highest grossing film of all time when you adjust for inflation. But then along came TV, which aired movies. Then this was followed by home video rental, then home video purchase, and thus a profit pipeline was formed. As movies became more expensive to make, Hollywood added more and more of these profit centers. The pipeline was streamlined with the rise of DVDs. Suddenly, movies became collector's items with slim cases and all these great extra features. Just listen to Matt Damon explain how DVDs became an important part of the Hollywood economic model.
The movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release, and 6 months later you'd get a whole nother chunk. It would be like reopening the movie almost.
So the theatrical release became almost an advertisement for DVD sales and rental. If a movie could break even at the box office, then the DVD sales would push it over the top. So the pipeline then became theatrical release, video on demand, DVD rental, and then DVD home sales, finally followed by syndication on TV. But then Netflix rose up and added a new link in the pipeline: streaming. Now, around the same time, movie theater chains consolidated power and negotiated with the studios for a 90-day exclusivity window. Even before the pandemic, though, studios were pushing to narrow this time frame and release the movies at home even sooner. In fact, it's kind of fitting that this evolution of the industry started with a movie about evolution, X-Men. X-Men was the first movie to make more money in its opening weekend for DVD sales than it did at the opening weekend box office.
Well, that's a really good point there, person, but hey, what about more treats?
No, 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 no.
Person.
No, 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 no.
Person.
No, no, no.
Person.
Oh, sorry, buddy. I had my Raycon earbuds on noise cancellation. I cannot believe how good these things are at shutting out noise.
Oh, I see. Is that your new funny earring?
No, buddy, it's not an earring. These are my everyday earbuds from Raycon. They're the sponsor of this video. I use my Raycons all the time. Like at work, when I watch videos, I have to be able to hear all of the nuances in the sound design. And also at the gym, I don't want to hear the house music they play. I like to listen to my own music or watch the X-Men. I love these earbuds, not only because they sound great, but unlike other earbuds, they're actually affordable, starting at just half the price of other premium audio brands. They also come in a wide variety of colors, so you're not stuck with flat white. I personally like darker colors, like this black pair, but I also like to be able to customize the protective case cover. Earbuds are such an important part of my life. I use them all day at work, on walks with Doug, watching videos, working out, so I'm glad I can have a pair that are customized for me. And one thing that I really hate is that when I'm recording a talkback, my old earbuds used to always run out of battery. The Raycon has a 32-hour battery life, and if I need a quick charge, just 10 minutes yields 90 minutes of more battery life. Plus, they charge wirelessly, which is a huge convenience, so I don't have to mess with this all the time. But also, Raycon earbuds are now weather and sweat resistant, so they're perfect for workouts. So I gotta recommend Raycon earbuds. If you just want to try them out, they offer a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy, no questions asked. So to try yours today, go to buyraycon.com/ScreenCrush to get 20% off site-wide. Again, that's buyraycon.com/ScreenCrush to get 15% off site-wide. Now back to what I was saying. So another key part of the economics is that movie theater tickets are powered by FOMO. You had to go see Avengers: Infinity War in theaters because you didn't want the ending spoiled for you. But this means that blockbusters see a lot less returning business than they used to. Like Titanic was #1 at the box office for 15 straight weeks. But today, blockbusters earn about 70% of their theatrical gross in just the first 3 weeks they're out. And that's actually only if they have good word of mouth. Another huge factor here are the marketing budgets. So according to Variety, Superman cost about $225 million to make, with another $125 million in marketing. So the studios just spent all that money, and they want to take advantage of that hype and marketing money by releasing the movie on digital as quickly as possible. If they wait too long, then maybe people have forgotten about the movie. But there's also something important to note here. Superman is not releasing straight to HBO Max. Like, that old studio pipeline I talked about still exists, but it's changed. You have to understand that when a movie is released in theaters, the studio actually splits that gross with the theater itself, averaging out to about 50% each. And this is because there is a lot of overhead to run a movie theater. There's rent, staff, air conditioning, food, maintaining expensive sound and projection equipment. Not to mention how much all those stupid popcorn buckets cost. And speaking of overhead, think about DVDs. They had to burn the disc, print the covers, and then send them off to stores. And then they had to split that money with the store itself. But with a digital release, there's almost no overhead. The studio gets to keep a higher percentage of that sale, minus licensing fees to the host. Remember, when a movie goes digital, at first it usually costs $25 to rent and $30 to buy, even though you don't really buy it. In fact, those movies you buy on digital platforms could all be gone tomorrow and you couldn't do anything about it, which I'm going to explain later on. Now, to give you an idea of how much money there is in digital releases, according to Deadline, Wicked made $70 million in its first weekend on demand. And Universal chairman Pete Levinson bragged that the movie made $100 million in its first 40 days. And Wicked made $700 million worldwide total at the box office. That's a significant percentage of its money just on home release. That's why digital release is the second stop on the movie release pipeline. And then, as the digital pipeline continues, the movie lands on streaming services, raising subscriber bases for the studio. And then it caters to Blu-ray collecting diehards with a physical release, and finally it goes on cable TV so your parents can watch the movie too. Now, if all of this seems like a rapid change, it's because the pandemic accelerated all of these naturally occurring changes. In 2019 and 2020, studios realized that they were handing money over to Netflix when they could just cut out the middleman and distribute their own movies digitally. So this began the streaming wars, with studios launching multiple streaming sites to stake their claim in this digital gold rush. And of course, when the pandemic hit, movie theaters were shut down, so Warner Brothers led the charge on killing that exclusivity window, releasing movies on streaming the same day they were released in theaters. And audiences, as it turns out, really liked this, maybe a little bit too much. I mean, guys, we can complain about this, but our own movie-going habits are responsible for this change. Like, why would you go to the movies when you have a huge flat screen at home, where you can actually be on your phone if you want? Or why go to the theater when you have to put up with jerks who are on their phone?
Sorry.
And also, movie studios spent years phasing out smaller movies in favor of guaranteed blockbusters. So they've trained audiences to only turn out for big screen event franchises. So really, we did this. We created this monster of immediate digital release.
Oh my God, Brian, what happened? Who did this to you? Did you do this, you son of a bitch?
But first, I want to talk to two experts. We have Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped in our television and doesn't know it, so please don't tell him, and Tommy Bechtold, our guy that's always on break. I don't know, Tommy, what did you think when you found out Superman was getting released on digital basically the weekend after it was in theaters?
I stopped banging my head against the wall on this like a year ago, but it's immensely frustrating for me. And I think what it does is it feeds into box office troll personalities on the internet that are like, look at all these movies tanking, and look at how poorly these movies are performing. It's like, it kind of gives them slightly some credibility. It's like, well, yeah, these movies are going to underperform because, as you mentioned before, like, there's not a ton of incentive to see the movie when you know you're going to be able to see it a month and a half later. It's just insane to have a 6-week window on a movie the size of Superman, in my opinion.
You know, it's weird. I don't even know if people make that conscious decision. I don't know if people go, oh, that Fall Guy looks pretty good. I'll just catch it in streaming, though, when it's cheaper. I just think that we have a condition now where we go, I don't really need to see that. I don't feel the impetus to go see that. And, you know, Colton, remember, like a decade ago, Will Ferrell movies like Talladega Nights, you know, made what, $250, $300 million? You had all the Judd Apatow movies. You know, Barbie's an example of a comedy attached to an IP that just did $1 billion. So it's weird to see this, oh, it's got to be a big screen movie kind of thing. Well, you know, you like going to the movies, even though I'm pretty sure you have to drive 4 hours to get to a theater. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's important to keep in mind that the people we're talking about that this kind of affects, it's not us. You know, we're going to go see the movie and then we're going to rent it on demand and then we're going to buy the Blu-ray and then we're going to watch it on streaming, even though we have like 4 Blu-ray copies sitting on our shelf. And then that's just me. I think we're talking about the general audience, the family of 4, or, you know, the couple who, you know, got a babysitter for the night, and they go to the movies maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months. And so when they have like maybe 5 movies to pick from, I do think they factor in, well, that one will be on streaming. That'll be fun to watch. We can watch that one then, rent it here. I think that when you take away this like feeling of, oh, well, we need to see it because if we don't, it's going to be X amount of time before we do. I think that does kind of affect, maybe even just at a subconscious level, how people decide which movie they're going to see and if they're going to see it in theaters or just wait. So I'm sure that Warner Brothers and all the studios have like data to support like their decision on whether or not to do this. Maybe it's tied into the fact that they don't want to have to ramp up the marketing again. Like it's been in theaters, they've got this marketing thing going, so then they're going straight into streaming. But I would think, I mean, it gets kind of stale at a certain point, right? I would think that you'd want to wait 6 months and then be like, hey, remember Superman? We're back.
It's exactly what I was going to say, Colton. You know, I think back to when I was a kid and VHS tapes were the popular medium. You'd buy like movies once they were in theaters, and it would be like I'll just use Disney as an example because those were the movies of my youth. And like take a movie like Beauty and the Beast, beg my parents to take me to the theaters, go to see it, love it, and then have to earnestly wait 6 months for it to come out. And by the time you pop that VHS into the VCR, it is as close to the feeling of excitement as I had going to see it in the theater as I can remember. And now that feeling is just, I mean, anecdotally gone for someone like me because I stream these movies weeks after I saw them. And it's like, oh yeah, like the magic of the movie is somewhat dulled because I already know everything that's going to happen. I have a very strong recency memory of it. And it's no longer this like, it's not an event again to see it at home.
To your point, Jurassic Park took almost a year to be released on VHS, and so did E.T. So like you're right. There was this whole attitude, Colton, of building up this like scarcity creates need. You know what I mean? It's a basic business principle.
I mean, like me personally, I saw Superman twice in theaters, which is kind of rare for me. I really don't see a movie more than once in theaters. But right now, I have no interest in watching it again. I feel like I just saw it. But if like in 6 months, like I think they did this with Infinity War, if I'm remembering right. Infinity War didn't drop until about, I don't know, 5-6 months after it was in theaters. And it felt like the whole like build up all over again. Like I was so excited to watch it again. It had been gone. It had been exclusively in theaters. We'd been without it all that time. When you make it so close, it just doesn't feel like an event anymore.
Yeah, and I wonder when Endgame re-released. I think that re-released before it was on digital. So even then they had that longer period. But that was all pre-pandemic though, you know, so there's still a lot of different things that are kind of altering and changing at that point. But I think what's happened though is they have just trained audiences to expect this. Even if you're not consciously going, well, I want to wait 6 months, I'm just going to wait 6 weeks. You kind of just expect everything to be at your fingertips, immediately available for yourself.
Do you guys get the impression that, because Ryan, you know, I go to CinemaCon every year. ScreenCrush is, you know, nice enough to send me to CinemaCon, and all the studios come and give their presentations to the different movie theaters. And they talk about how, oh, we are dedicated to the movie theater going experience, to which Warner Brothers really lays it on thick because they got so much shit during the pandemic. So, but do you guys think, I don't believe them. I think that movie studios are not crazy about the fact that they have to share their box office with the movie theaters. And I think they would much prefer a world where, like what they were kind of gunning toward during the pandemic, a world where they just put their movies on streaming and get 100% of the profits. I think that's stupid because I think you make way more money putting it in theaters, even when you're having to share it, you know, the box office. But
I think you're wrong for a couple of reasons. One, it is a lot of money, especially for a blockbuster. I mean, earlier we talked about the figures for Wicked, where video on demand, it made $100 million. And I don't think that what they would have made from, if it had only been on, if Wicked would have only been released on digital, I don't think they would have approached $700 million. Now, again, We're talking gross. That's before movie theater splits, etc. So maybe the actual figure is closer to 350, etc. Also, the big screen release is the best advertisement you can get. Like, in order for a movie to reach a certain amount of cultural saturation, you need movie advertisements, you need magazine covers, you basically just need everybody to be talking about it. There's certain trending metrics that are set, right? Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or if you're a communist, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, was the first movie to reach 100% audience saturation in the United States. Everybody in the United States knew that movie was being released, and it was because of a concerted effort that happened on many levels, and that was pre-social media. And now, with everything being so fragmented, I think if they did just release on digital only, they would never reach that amount of saturation. And it would basically be like what a Netflix movie release is. Does anybody care, other than, hey, there's something I can listen to when I clean my kitchen? Does anybody care about a Netflix movie release?
I want to let Tommy in on this, but I just want to say I agree with what you said, that argument. But I do think movie studios are kind of salivating at the idea, and this is something that they were really pushing in like 2021, of releasing one of their big blockbuster movies like a Wicked, like a Superman, for like a $50, pirate-proof copy that you purchase, and you can have it for like, a 24-hour period or something. If you can get $50 out of like a rental, I mean, that is going to start to be competitive, especially with those numbers you were mentioning with just the standard digital release of Wicked. So I don't know. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong.
And when they negotiated that 90-day exclusivity down to 74 days and then down to even shorter like it is now, that happens because movie theaters hold less and less power because people aren't going to theaters as much. So I don't know. I don't think they'll ever get rid of big screen releases. But Tommy, what do you think on this? Are studios trying to completely phase out the magic of the movie theater? Is Nicole Kidman crying right now?
I think somehow she's going to be okay. I'm generally an optimist, but when it comes to corporations, I do have a very pessimistic slant. And I believe that these studios consider movie theaters kind of a necessary annoyance right now. Like, they're like, we do have to have the prestige of the premiere and the big screen release, but to what Colton is saying, ultimately, if we can do these small screen big releases of, like, you want to see the new Jurassic World movie, it's going to be $60, $59.99, and we'll give you a digital coupon to your local grocery store for a half off popcorn or something like that, because then they can tie in another company. I think that there's no like moral, like, to sugarcoat a message and be like, we are committed to the magic of the going to the movies experience, to me is bullshit. I think that is, they are committed to making us think that they are committed to that. But ultimately, if they could sell the same amount of tickets or make the same amount of money with people sitting on their couches, they would gladly watch all AMC's and Regal cinemas burn to the ground. I just don't believe that they're that benevolent.
Tommy, your critique of corporations has me thinking that you totally call it Philosopher's Stone.
I do. Me and my comrades get together in the the room of requirements.
The reason this all started was because you used to have movie studios own the theaters they were at. There are still old theaters around the country called like the Paramount or Warner's Theater. But there was a ruling that that's a monopoly and that movie studios couldn't own the theaters, which was a seismic disruption in the industry that took them years to recover from. Now you have movie studios owning distribution platforms called streaming services. I'm not so sure that would be ruled as an antitrust purchase now. If the movie theaters wanted to get together, form their own chain like all the large studios, they would A, not only be pushing out independent movies, B, they would control the entire pipeline and production. They wouldn't have to be splitting movie costs. You could see something like that happen, Gold.
Yeah, were you alluding to how that was just recently repealed? You broke up a little on my end, but that was recently repealed? Yeah, a studio can own a movie theater now. I was reading a report about Apple is currently suing a movie theater who is called like Apple something or another, and
they opened one in Rochester. There's an Apple Cinemas is like a sit down. It's like an Alamo Drafthouse style theater.
Yeah, and I heard John Campea allude to or suggest that perhaps Apple should just buy the movie theater now that has been repealed. So I don't know.
Interesting. No, I had no idea. So we're all learning things here together. So I think you're likely to see that. Like if movie studios are trying to control this pipeline. But one thing we haven't talked about yet that you also see a lot more of are, when the streaming wars started, it was very much like Grubhub or Seamless, right? Or Uber. Anytime there's a new digital service, they always get a ton of seed money. They saturate the market by being really cheap. And then next thing you know, an Uber that used to cost $5 costs $30. They're doing the same thing with streaming services. You've seen Disney Plus started at $6. Now it's like 15 and nobody's noticed because they just want to hook you like a drug dealer.
Yeah, ESPN is going to be $30. $30 for the new ESPN app.
But what you have seen with this next phase of the streaming is more companies willing to work together. If you would have ever told me that Disney would be bundling with Warner Brothers, right? That basically gives me hope for like the next Roger Rabbit sequel, or a Roger Rabbit sequel. So that's what makes me think maybe these studios are actually going to like come together. But if they do that, then there's also hope that maybe, I don't know, it makes sense to me that Amazon would be doing this, except Amazon's whole thing is they don't want you in theaters and off your phones. And that's the main thing here. All these companies, what they really want is you on your phone while something's on, so you can also engage with content and you can also buy stuff. If you're in the movie theater, you're not allowed to be on your phone. So I think that makes you not as good of a consumer. But what we're missing here, guys, is what Marshall McLuhan said, which is the medium is the message. So if you want to understand a culture, you don't necessarily look at the art it produces, you look at how the culture consumes that art. For example, in the 1920s, the Spanish flu had just ripped through the entire world. People were stuck at home. They were bored as hell. So they wanted to go into theaters. They wanted to go to dance halls. When COVID-19 hit, right, we had an alternate entertainment source, our phones, streaming. And that further conditioned us to not give a shit about going out and having experiences. And I think if people do want to go out and have experiences and spend that amount of money, they're much more likely to want to do something immersive, to go to a concert, to go someplace where they feel freedom to be on their phone, which again, if movie theaters change the rule that you can be on your phone and they lower the price, I think that would help ticket sales, but I wouldn't be there, right? I think just get off your damn phone.
Well, what's going to happen is there's going to be these like special screenings at theaters where they're like, this is a phone free screening where like you could go and be guaranteed that. You have to also remember the next generation coming up, and this isn't Boomer Tommy complaining, this is just the reality, has been babysat by screens. They've been like my nieces and nephews have been babysat by screens because their uncle was certainly out at the bar drinking when he should have been watching them. So it's understandable that would happen, but it's like they're not the new generation, like the kids that are going to become the next movie ticket buyers in 10 years are so deeply immersed in their phones that like having the rule that you can't have your phones in the movies is going to be like it's going to be along the lines of like marijuana is illegal. Like, yeah, sure it is. A lot of people still smoke it though.
But I'm wondering if that rule, it will be a social taboo. Like, okay, if everybody's always on their phone all the time, right? I think it would make sense if when you're out with friends at dinner, it would be extremely taboo to be on your phone because you're on your phone 8 hours a day. This is the time you're not on your phone. Yeah, I kind of see it spun the other way around. Sorry, Colton, I cut you off.
I was just going to say, we have to break that generation of it. I drag my 5-year-old nephew to the movies a lot, and he's probably a little too young, to be having to sit in a movie theater. But
to be watching Weapons. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, take him away. He does love watching the phone. He likes watching the skibbity toilet and the siren head. It gets me in trouble with his mom. But he's always wanting the phone. And I broke him of it when we're in the movies. But one of the first few times, we were sitting through a movie, he leaned over, "Can I watch your phone?" I'm like, and I gave him this whisper lecture. "We are in a movie. The phone does not come out during the movie." I put the fear
you
of
turned
God.
into Liam Neeson from Taken. So would you have taken issue in 1994 when my dad fielded a full phone call during GoldenEye?
My mother is an on-call nurse, so she has to answer her phone. And she'll get up and leave the movie. But one time she answered the call as she was getting up to, get out of the chair. And I was like, "Get the out of here. You cannot take a phone call in the movie."
Yeah. My dad's not a medical professional. He's a machine shop worker, but he still took that call at full volume. So
oddly enough, I do remember calling some guy who said he was in a GoldenEye theater back in 1994. So it all comes full circle. Tommy, I was out there the whole time and you never came and found me. We could have been friends for 30 years at this point. Well, guys, I'm having fun. Are you having fun? But it doesn't matter because we have to go. As always, I want to thank. Now, I do want to talk to you guys about, hey, that stuff that you bought on digital, you think you own, you don't really own it, and it can disappear in just a second. First, I want to thank Colton, the guy who's trapped in our TV and doesn't know it, so please don't tell him. And Tommy Bechtold, the guy who's always on break. Thanks for joining me, guys. Now, let's talk about why you don't actually own the things you own. Now, earlier I mentioned that when you buy something on digital, you don't really own it. This is because you can only watch it or listen to it on that platform as long as that service retains the licensing for it. Like the internet is filled with stories of people losing their iTunes libraries or access to movies they bought because, like, maybe Apple lost the digital rights to Bob's Burgers in Canada. Heck, this can even affect DLCs for games. And this is because we live in an era called techno-feudalism, where we all live in these digital spaces, but we don't actually own these spaces. And this is why I hope we don't lose our love of movie theaters. Like, we also don't own the movie theater, but we do own the experience of seeing a movie in a dark room with strangers. Gathering together to hear stories in the dark is a primal part of what it means to be human. So I hope that watching this video has encouraged you to get out of your cave and go join the rest of us at the movies. Well, guys, that's just my thoughts, but let me know, do you think that Superman released on digital too soon? Do you still go to the theater? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, or you can at me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, or on our free to join Discord server. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel, guys. Please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.